"Your tattoo is just like my mother's," said the waitress, not knowing who he was. Amanda Collins felt her hands trembling as she held the coffee tray. The restaurant was bustling that Thursday evening, but something made her feel a different kind of anguish, as if something important was about to happen. It was when she approached table 15 to serve coffee to the distinguished silver-haired customer. Her eyes automatically dropped to his hands resting on the table, and her world completely stopped. "I'm sorry, but your tattoo is just like my mother's," slipped from her lips before she could think. The elegant-looking man instantly paled. His blue eyes widened as he stared at Amanda, as if he were seeing a ghost. The coffee cup trembled in his hands. "What did you say?" he murmured, his voice hoarse with surprise. Amanda placed the cup on the table with difficulty, her eyes fixed on the tattoo she knew so well. A dragon entwined with a rose, exactly like the one her mother carried on her left wrist. The same details, the same curves, as if they had been done by the same artist. "My mother had an identical tattoo," she repeated, still in shock. "I've never seen another like it." The man ran his hand over his face, visibly shaken. He looked around the restaurant as if searching for an exit, then turned his gaze back to Amanda with an intensity that frightened her. "What was your mother's name?" he asked quietly. "Rose Helen Collins," Amanda automatically replied, not understanding why she was sharing this information with a stranger. The man closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, there were tears in the corners. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "But not here. When does your shift end?" Amanda hesitated. All the safety rules her aunt had taught her screamed in her head not to accept meetings with customers. But there was something in those blue eyes, a deep pain that she recognized that made her nod. "In an hour," she said. "I'll wait," he replied simply. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. Amanda could barely concentrate on the other customers, her thoughts constantly returning to the tattoo and the man's reaction. When she finally got a break, she ran to the staff bathroom and called her Aunt Constance. "Aunt, I need to ask you something about Mom." "What is it, my dear?" Constance's voice sounded worried. "Her tattoo. Do you know if anyone else had one like it?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Why are you asking this, Amanda?" "There's a customer here at the restaurant with the same tattoo, exactly the same." Constance's deep sigh confirmed Amanda's worst fears. "Come home after work. We need to talk." When Amanda returned to the dining room, the man had left. On his table, besides a generous tip of $200, there was a simple card with just a handwritten address. Amanda put the card away and finished her shift in a state of shock. During the entire way home, on the crowded bus crossing New York City, she went over her memories of her mother. Rose Helen had passed away when Amanda was just 15, a victim of a stroke that took her in a few hours. Since then, Amanda had lived with her Aunt Constance, her mother's older sister, in the same neighborhood where she grew up. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like, and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Aunt Constance's house was on a quiet residential street in the Upper East Side. Amanda found the 65-year-old woman waiting for her in the living room, with 2 cups of tea on the coffee table. The weathered, time-worn face of Constance showed a worry that Amanda rarely saw. "Sit here, my child," said Constance, patting the sofa beside her. Amanda obeyed, still holding the card with the address. "Aunt, what do you know about Mom's tattoo?" Constance took a deep breath, her bony hands playing with the hem of her dress. "Your mother got that tattoo when she was 18, she began slowly. "It was during a complicated time in her life." "Complicated how?" "Rose was in love, madly in love with a young man." Constance paused, looking at Rose's portrait on the shelf. "They got these tattoos together as a promise of eternal love." Amanda felt her heart race. "And what happened to him?" "His family didn't accept Rose. We were poor, Amanda. Your mother was the daughter of a doorman and a maid. The young man came from a wealthy family." Constance's voice trembled. "It was a time of great suffering." "But then, what happened then?" Constance stood up and went to the window, turning her back to Amanda. Your mother ran away from home when she found out she was pregnant. She was gone for a year. When she returned, she came with you in her arms and never spoke about the father again. Amanda's world collapsed. All these years, she had believed her mother had gotten involved with someone who abandoned her upon learning of the pregnancy. She never imagined there was a love story behind her conception. Aunt, you need to tell me everything. Please. Constance returned to the sofa, her eyes filled with tears. Your mother made me promise I would never tell. She said it was better this way, that you should grow up without false hopes. But he's alive, said Amanda, showing the card. He was at the restaurant today. He was shaken when he heard Mom's name. Constance took the card and read it carefully. Amanda, you can't go after this man. Why? Because your mother chose to stay away. She had her reasons. What reasons? Amanda stood up frustrated. I'm 30 years old, Aunt. I have the right to know about my father. He's not your father, Constance said quickly, then regretted her words. What do you mean? The silence that followed was deafening. Amanda watched the expressions crossing her aunt's face. Guilt, fear, regret. Aunt Constance, what aren't you telling me? Constance stood up and went to an old cabinet in the corner of the room. From a hidden drawer, she pulled out a wooden box that Amanda had never seen before. Inside were old photos, letters and documents yellowed with age. Your mother left me this, she said, handing a photo to Amanda. She said to give it to you when you turned 30, if you ever asked about your father. In the photo, Amanda saw her mother still very young, smiling radiantly next to a dark-haired young man. He had his arm around her, and both were showing their freshly inked tattoos. Amanda immediately recognized the young man's blue eyes. They were the same eyes as the man from the restaurant, just decades younger. My God, murmured Amanda, it's really him. Your mother never knew if you were his daughter or another young man's, confessed Constance, the words coming out in a whisper. During the time she ran away, she was involved with 2 people. When she discovered the pregnancy, she didn't know who the father was. Amanda felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. All her certainties about her origin crumbled in a matter of seconds. Is that why she never looked for either of them? She was afraid of discovering the truth and having to face the consequences. Constance dried her eyes with a handkerchief. Your mother suffered greatly, Amanda. Truly greatly. When she returned pregnant, she was emotionally destroyed. Amanda took more photos from the box. She saw her mother at different moments, alone, holding her belly, then with baby Amanda. In all the photos where she appeared alone, Rose seemed to carry a deep sadness in her eyes. And the other man, who was he? A simple young man from the neighborhood. He passed away about 10 years ago. Constance sighed. Your mother got involved with him in an attempt to forget her first love. It was a relationship that lasted just a few months. Amanda felt even more confused. Her entire life had been based on incomplete information and half-truths. I need to find this man, she finally said. I need to know the truth. Amanda, think carefully about what you're doing. Your mother chose silence for a reason. My mother died 15 years ago, Aunt. She can't be hurt by this story anymore, but I can be freed by it. The next day, Amanda asked for time off from the Bella Vista restaurant, where she had worked for 3 years. The address on the card led to an upper-middle-class area of New York City in the Greenwich Village neighborhood. She took 2 buses to get there, her nerves on edge the entire trip. The house was a single-story, simple but well-kept, with a small garden in front. Amanda took a deep breath before ringing the doorbell. An elderly woman with white hair, looking about 70, answered the door. You must be Amanda, the woman said with a gentle smile. I'm Lucy. I've been waiting for you for years. The statement left Amanda bewildered. What do you mean? Come in, my dear, let's talk calmly. Lucy led her to a cozy room, decorated with plants and old photographs. Amanda noticed that some of the photos showed Lucy herself next to a young woman she recognized immediately. Did you know my mother? Rose Helen was my best friend, Lucy confirmed, serving water to Amanda. I met her when we both worked as saleswomen in a downtown store. That was over 30 years ago. And the man from the restaurant? Robert, Lucy said simply. Robert Anderson. He's been my neighbor for 20 years. When he moved to this street, he had no idea of the connection we had. Amanda felt her heart race. Does he know that you knew my mother? He knew I had a friend named Rose, but he never made the connection. Rose Helen isn't such an uncommon name, and I never mentioned the last name, Collins. Lucy sat down next to Amanda. But when you showed up in his life yesterday, everything changed. Did he come here? He spent the whole night here. He was desperate, crying like a child. Lucy picked up one of the photos from the table. I showed him this photo. The photo showed Rose pregnant, smiling timidly at the camera. It was in a park that Amanda didn't recognize. Where was this taken? In Boulder, in the countryside of New York City. That's where your mother fled when she found out about the pregnancy. And why did she go there of all places? Lucy hesitated before answering. Because that's where Robert lived at the time. She went after him, but found out he was engaged to someone else. Amanda felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. Engaged? His family had arranged a marriage. Rose arrived in Boulder full of hope, thinking they could be together. When she found out about the engagement, she was devastated. Lucy wiped away a tear. She called me crying, saying she had been wrong about everything. But she didn't tell him about the pregnancy. No, she said she didn't want to ruin his life. Lucy stood up and went to the window. Your mother was always too proud for her own good. At that moment, Amanda heard the sound of a car stopping in front of the house. Lucy peeked through the curtain and sighed. It's Robert. He's early today. Does he live here? No, but he's been coming every day since you met at the restaurant. Lucy looked at Amanda with compassion. He's desperate to talk to you but doesn't know how to approach. The doorbell rang, and Lucy went to answer it. Amanda heard voices at the entrance, then footsteps approaching the room. When Robert appeared at the door, she noticed he seemed to have aged 10 years since their meeting at the restaurant. Amanda, he said, his voice choked. We need to talk. She nodded, unable to speak. Robert sat in the armchair across from her, his hands visibly trembling. Lucy told me your mother went to Boulder when she was pregnant. It's true, Amanda managed to reply. I didn't know. He ran his hands over his face. If I had known she was there, that she was pregnant, what would you have done? Asked Amanda, surprised by the harshness in her own voice. Would you have called off the wedding? Robert remained silent for a long moment. I don't know, he finally admitted. Back then I was a coward. I let my parents decide my life. And you got married anyway? I did. The word came out as a whisper. The marriage lasted 2 years. My ex-wife realized I was in love with someone else and filed for divorce. Amanda felt a mix of anger and pity. Anger because he had chosen the easy way out instead of love. Pity because she could see genuine regret in his eyes. After the divorce, I searched everywhere for your mother, Robert continued. I hired detectives, placed ads in newspapers, visited every place I thought she might be. And you never found her. Once, about 15 years ago, a detective said he had a lead on her in New York City. When I got to the address he gave me, I found out she had passed away 3 months earlier. Amanda felt tears welling up in her eyes. Her mother had died when Robert was finally searching for her seriously. The detective gave me some information, Robert went on. He said Rose had raised a daughter alone, but that the girl was already grown and had left home. I never managed to find out more details. I hadn't left home, corrected Amanda. I was there. I was taking care of her when she got sick. Robert closed his eyes, the pain evident on his face. All those lost years, he murmured. Lucy, who had remained silent, came closer and sat beside Amanda. There's something you both need to know, she said slowly. Rose asked me to tell this only if you ever met. Both looked at her expectantly. Rose was never sure who Amanda's father was. Lucy looked directly at Robert. But she always hoped it was you. The words fell like bombs in the quiet room. "Why?" asked Amanda. "Because she loved you from the moment she found out you existed inside her. And she loved Robert too, despite everything." Lucy sighed deeply. "She told me that if you were Robert's daughter, it would be perfect, because you would carry within you the best of the two loves of her life." Robert stood up abruptly and began pacing the room. "I need to know the truth," he said. "We can do a DNA test." Amanda looked at him, studying his face. She saw similarities that could be real or just a product of her imagination. The blue eyes, the jawline, the shape of the hands. "No," she said finally. "What do you mean, no?" "I don't want to take the test now. First, I want to get to know you. I want to know what kind of man you are, what kind of father you would be." Amanda stood up and looked directly at him. "If we are related, I want it to be by choice, not just by DNA." Robert seemed surprised by the answer. "I understand," he said after a moment. "Actually, I think that's the wisest thing." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, in the weeks that followed, Amanda and Robert began meeting regularly. First in neutral places like coffee shops and parks, then Robert started frequenting the restaurant where Amanda worked, always asking to be served by her. Amanda's co-workers soon noticed the situation. Carla, a more experienced waitress who had worked at Bella Vista for 10 years, was the first to comment. "Amanda, that distinguished gentleman has been coming here every day just for you to serve him," she said during a break, "and he always leaves very generous tips." "It's complicated, Carla," Amanda replied, not knowing how to explain the situation. "Complicated how? Is he married?" "It's not that. It's family." Carla raised her eyebrows but didn't press further. Amanda still didn't feel ready to share the truth with anyone at work. During these encounters, Amanda gradually got to know Robert. She discovered he had built a successful import-export company but had never remarried after his divorce. "I never managed to fall in love with anyone else," he confessed during one of their lunches at the restaurant. "I always knew I'd left my true love behind." 30 years is a long time to carry such pain, Amanda observed, serving him coffee. "Time doesn't heal some wounds. It just teaches you to live with them." Amanda began to see beyond Robert's elegance and success. She saw a lonely man who had spent decades punishing himself for choices he made when young. This made her feel a strange compassion for him. One day, Robert showed up at the restaurant with a package. "I brought something for you," he said, handing over the parcel. Inside was an old photo album. Amanda opened it and saw dozens of photos of herself at different ages, from infancy to her school days. "How did you get these photos?" "Lucy had some, and I got others from your aunt's neighbors." Robert looked at her tenderly. "I wanted to follow your life, even if from a distance and only through images." Amanda flipped through the album, moved. She saw herself growing up through the eyes of a stranger who might be her father. In some photos, she recognized important moments: her high school graduation, birthdays, the day she got the restaurant job. "It must have taken a lot of effort to get all this," she said. "It was worth every minute," Robert replied. "Even not knowing if you were my daughter, knowing you existed gave me hope." At that moment, Amanda realized she had already made a decision in her heart, regardless of what a DNA test might reveal. That man had searched for her mother for decades, had collected memories of her for years, had carried genuine pain all that time. DNA or not, he had earned the right to be part of her life. "Robert," she said, using his name for the first time, "I want you to meet my Aunt Constance." His eyes lit up. "Are you sure?" "I am. I think it's time to put the pieces of this story together." The meeting was scheduled for the following Sunday at Constance's house. Amanda had prepared her aunt all week, telling her about her conversations with Robert and explaining that he seemed genuinely remorseful for past choices. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Constance confessed the day before. "All these years, I blamed him for your mother's suffering. Aunt, he suffered too, and my mother chose not to look for him when she discovered the pregnancy. Your mother was proud, but she was also protecting her heart," Constance defended. She'd already been rejected once because of social differences. Sunday dawned sunny. Robert arrived promptly at 2 in the afternoon, bringing flowers for Constance and a cake from the best bakery in town. Amanda noticed he was visibly nervous. Constance received him courteously, but Amanda could feel the tension in the air. The first few minutes were awkward, with superficial talk about the weather and traffic. It was Robert who broke the ice. "Mrs. Constance, I want you to know that not a day has gone by in all these years when I haven't thought about Rose, and since I met Amanda, I wake up every morning regretting the lost time." Constance studied him carefully before answering. "Rose suffered a lot because of you, Robert. A great deal. I know. And I know that nothing I say now can change that." Robert looked at his hands, then at Constance. "But you need to know that I suffered too. The decision to marry someone else was the worst decision of my life. Then why did you do it?" Robert sighed deeply. "I was 22. My parents told me that if I married Rose, I would be disinherited, that she wasn't from our social class, that the marriage would be a mistake." He paused. "I was young, cowardly, and I thought I could learn to love someone else." "And did you?" "No, never." Robert looked directly at Constance. "My marriage was hell for me and for my ex-wife. She deserved someone who truly loved her." Constance stood up and went to the bookshelf where Rose's photos were kept. She picked out a particular one and handed it to Robert. "This was taken 2 days before she passed away," she said. "Look at her eyes." Robert took the photo with trembling hands. The image showed Rose in the hospital bed, thin and fragile, but smiling at the camera. "Even at the end, she spoke of you," Constance continued. "She said she hoped you were happy, wherever you were." Robert couldn't hold back the tears. "Did she forgive me?" "Rose never held a grudge against anyone. She was incapable of it." Constance sat down again. "But that doesn't mean she didn't suffer." Amanda watched the exchange in silence, seeing two people who had loved the same woman trying to find a point of peace in the painful past. "May I tell you about her last days?" Constance offered. Robert nodded, even though he knew it would be painful to hear. Rose was in the hospital for 3 days. The doctors said there was nothing more they could do. Constance wiped her eyes. "On the last day, she asked me to take care of Amanda. She said that if you ever showed up, I should give you a chance to get to know each other." "She really said that?" "She did. And she said one more thing." Constance looked at Amanda, then at Robert. "She said that if Amanda had the chance to meet her father, whoever he might be, she shouldn't miss that opportunity." The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. Robert finally understood that Rose had died without bitterness, wishing the best for him and for the daughter she had raised alone. "Mrs. Constance," he said finally, "if Amanda is indeed my daughter, I promise I will do everything to make up for the lost years. And if she isn't, I promise I will take care of her as if she were, because she is the only part of Rose that still lives in this world." Constance studied Robert's face for a long moment, then stood up and went to the cabinet where she kept the memory box. She returned with a sealed envelope. "Rose left this for me. She said to give it to her if Amanda ever found her father." Amanda took the envelope with trembling hands. The seal had been made with red wax, and on it Rose had written, "For Amanda and her father." "May I open it now?" "I think the time has come," said Constance. Inside the envelope was a several-page letter, written in Rose's careful handwriting. Amanda began to read aloud. "My dear daughter, if you are reading this letter, it means you have found your father. I don't know which of the 2 men it is, but I know that if you have come this far, it is because he has proven himself worthy of your love. All these years, I have carried the burden of not being certain about your paternity, but I want you to know that this never diminished the love I felt for you from the moment I knew you existed. If your father is Robert Anderson, know that he was the great love of my life. Our story ended painfully, but I hold no grudges. We were young and made mistakes. If it's him, ask him to tell you about our meetings in Central Park, where we planned to run away together to the countryside. They were youthful dreams, but they were real to us. If your father is Marcus Silver, know that he was a good man who took me in when I was shattered. Our relationship was brief, but he always treated me with respect and affection. Unfortunately, he died too young to know you. Regardless of who your father is, I want you to know that you were wanted and loved from the very first day. I chose to raise you alone not for lack of love for them, but because I wanted to protect you from the complications that would certainly arise. Forgive me for not being brave enough to seek the truth. Forgive me for denying you the right to know your father. I believed I was doing what was best for you, but now I realize I may have been unfair. If you're reading this with your father by your side, my final wish is that you build a true and loving relationship. Life is too short to be wasted on grievances and regrets. With all my love, your mother, Rose Helen. The silence that followed the reading of the letter was profound. Everyone was crying. Amanda, Robert, and Constance. Rose's words seemed to have brought a kind of absolution for all involved. She mentioned Central Park, Robert said after a few minutes. We used to meet there every Sunday. We planned to run away to a small town in the countryside where no one knew us. Why did you never run away? Amanda asked. Cowardice on my part, Robert admitted. I always made excuses to postpone. I was afraid of disappointing my parents, afraid of going through hardships, afraid of the unknown. And her. Rose was brave. She was willing to give up everything for our love. Robert sighed. She deserved someone better than I was back then. Constance approached Robert and placed her hand on his shoulder. Rose always said she didn't regret loving you. She said it was the happiest time of her life. Even with all the suffering I caused, true love is always worth it even when it hurts, Constance said wisely. Rose understood that better than any of us. Amanda looked at Robert with a new understanding. She saw not just a man who had abandoned her mother, but someone who had paid a high price for his choices, someone who had spent decades living with regret and guilt. Robert, she said, I want to take the DNA test. He looked at her surprised. Are you sure? I am. Not because I need confirmation to accept you into my life, but because I think we both deserve to know the truth. Robert nodded. As you wish. But regardless of the result, I want you to know that I already consider you part of my family. Robert's eyes filled with tears again. Amanda, that means more to me than you can imagine. Constance smiled for the first time since Robert arrived. Rose would be happy to know that you found each other, she said, and that you found a way to heal the wounds of the past. The DNA test was done the following Monday. Robert insisted on paying for everything and choosing the most reliable lab in the city. The results would be ready in a week. During that week of waiting, Amanda and Robert met every day. He began to tell her stories about the time he dated her mother, details that only someone very close would know. Your mother had a unique way of laughing, he told her during coffee. When something really amused her, she would cover her mouth with her hand and laugh with her eyes. Amanda smiled, recognizing the gesture she herself made when she laughed. She liked to sing too, especially when she was cooking. Robert continued. She had a sweet, somewhat husky voice. I inherited her voice, commented Amanda. People always say I sing just like her. Did she teach you the songs she sang? A few. My favorite was How Great My Love Is For You. She always sang it when I was little. Robert paled. That song, his voice faltered. It was our song. I used to sing it to her whenever we met. Amanda felt a shiver. Another connection was revealed, another thread linking the past to the present. So when she sang it to me, she was remembering you. It's possible, said Robert, visibly moved. Rose always said it was the song that best expressed what she felt for me. On Thursday, Robert showed up at the restaurant with a different gift. It was a small blue velvet box. What is this? Open it. Inside was a delicate ring with a small golden rose. I had bought it for your mother, explained Robert. It was meant to be the engagement ring. I kept it all these years, waiting for a chance to give it to her. Amanda was speechless. I think she would want you to have it now, he continued. Robert, I can't accept this. It's too valuable to you. Amanda, you're the only family I have in this world. Who else could wear the ring? Amanda hesitated, then accepted the small box. Thank you. I'll cherish it. Wear it whenever you want. Rose always said gold only looks beautiful when it's being worn. On Friday, The DNA results were ready. Robert suggested they go together to pick up the envelope at the lab. "Would you prefer I open it, or do you want to do it?" he asked when they received the sealed envelope. "Let's open it together," decided Amanda. They sat on a bench in a square near the lab. Robert carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the paper. Amanda held her breath. "Probability of paternity, 99.97%, read Robert aloud. For a moment they were silent, absorbing the confirmation of what they both already felt in their hearts. "So it's official," said Amanda finally. "It's official," confirmed Robert. His voice choked. "You're my daughter." They hugged right there, in the middle of the square, two people who had found each other after 3 decades apart. Amanda felt a sense of completeness she hadn't known was missing from her life. "And now?" she asked when they separated. "Now we start over," said Robert. Father and daughter, as it should have been from the beginning. But the joy of the moment was interrupted when Robert received a call on his cell phone. His expression changed drastically during the conversation. "What happened?" asked Amanda when he hung up. "It was my lawyers," said Robert, looking worried. "My half-brothers found out about you." "You have brothers?" "I do. And they weren't at all happy to hear they have a niece." Amanda felt a chill in her stomach. "Why weren't they happy?" Robert hesitated before answering. "Because of the inheritance. They always knew I never had children, so they expected to inherit everything when I died." "Robert, I don't want your money." "I know, Amanda, but they don't know that." Robert sighed. "In fact, I don't even know if they'd believe you if you told them. How did they find out about me? I have no idea. Maybe someone at the lab said something. Or maybe they followed me." The worry on Robert's face was evident. Amanda realized that discovering paternity was just the beginning of a new series of complications. "What are we going to do?" "We'll face the situation together," said Robert, taking her hand. "You're my daughter, and no one is going to change that." But Amanda couldn't help but wonder what kind of troubles awaited them. After years of searching for a father, she had finally found one. Now she was discovering that having a family could be more complicated than she had imagined. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, feel free to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The following Saturday, Amanda was working normally at the restaurant when 2 well-dressed men entered and asked for a table. She served them without suspecting anything, but soon noticed they were watching her with excessive attention. "Are you Amanda Collins?" asked the taller one, a man around 50 with brown hair. "Yes, that's me. How can I help you?" "We're Ralph and Richard Anderson," said the other, slightly younger. "Robert's his half-brothers." Amanda felt her stomach turn to ice. She hadn't expected to be confronted at work. "Oh," was all she could manage. "Can we talk in private?" asked Ralph. Amanda looked around the restaurant. It was full and she couldn't just abandon her shift. "I'm working right now, maybe another time." "It won't take long," insisted Richard. "It's about Robert." Carla, who had been observing the situation from a distance, approached. "Is everything all right, Amanda?" she asked, looking suspiciously at the 2 men. "Yes, it is," replied Amanda, not wanting to cause a scene. "I'm just going to have a quick word with them." She led the half-brothers to a table at the back of the restaurant, away from the other customers. "What do you want with me?" Ralph leaned forward. "We want to know what your intentions are with Robert." "My intentions?" "Don't play dumb," said Richard in a more aggressive tone. "We know you took a DNA test. We know you're his daughter." Amanda felt anger rising in her chest. "So what? We want to make it clear that we won't accept a stranger appearing out of nowhere and taking advantage of our half-brother's good faith," continued Ralph. "I'm not a stranger. I'm his daughter. A daughter who conveniently appeared just when Robert is getting older and more vulnerable," retorted Richard. Amanda stood up from her chair, indignant. "How dare you insinuate that I'm a con artist? I didn't even know Robert existed until 2 weeks ago." "That's what you say," murmured Ralph. "Listen carefully," said Amanda, controlling her voice to keep from shouting. "I don't want Robert's money. I don't want any inheritance. I just want to get to know my father." The 2 brothers exchanged skeptical looks. They all say that at first, commented Richard. I'm not all. I'm an honest person who's been working since I was 16 to support myself. Amanda pointed to the uniform she was wearing. Look where I am. Do you really think if I wanted easy money I'd be working as a waitress? That could just be an act, insisted Ralph. Amanda had had enough. Get out of here now before I call security. Don't threaten us, young lady, said Richard, raising his voice. The commotion began to attract the attention of the other customers. The restaurant manager, Mr. Mark, quickly approached. What's the problem here? He asked. No problem, said Ralph, forcing a smile. We were just leaving. Good, replied Mr. Mark, standing by Amanda's side. Before leaving, Ralph turned to Amanda. This isn't over. We'll be keeping an eye on you. When they left, Amanda was shaking with anger and nerves. Mr. Mark took her to the staff area. Who were those men? It's a complicated story, Mr. Mark. Family. Family doesn't treat family like that, he observed. If they come back here causing trouble, I'll call the police. Amanda thanked him and tried to get back to work, but she couldn't concentrate. It was clear that Robert's half-brothers weren't going to accept her presence peacefully. When her shift ended, she called Robert and told him about the encounter. They did what? He exploded on the other end of the line. They came to the restaurant. They said they won't accept that I take advantage of you. Amanda, where are you now? Leaving work. I'll pick you up. We need to resolve this immediately. Robert arrived in 15 minutes, visibly furious. Amanda had never seen him like this. Get in the car, he said. We're going to my half-brother's house. Robert, I don't think that's a good idea. It's a great idea. They need to learn to respect you. The drive to Ralph's house was made in silence. Amanda could see the tension in Robert's jaw as he drove. When they arrived at a large house in an upscale neighborhood, Robert got out of the car, slamming the door. Ralph answered the doorbell with a fake, surprised expression. Robert, what a surprise! No surprise at all. Robert cut him off. You and Richard bothered my daughter at her work. Daughter? Ralph made a sarcastic expression. This woman appeared out of nowhere claiming to be your daughter, and you just believed her? We did a DNA test, Ralph. 99.97% probability. Ralph's expression changed. It was clear he hadn't expected this confirmation. Even so, that doesn't change the fact that she might be after your money. Robert entered the house without being invited, with Amanda hesitantly behind him. Richard appeared in the living room, equally surprised by the visit. I want to make one thing very clear to both of you, said Robert, pointing his finger at the half-brothers. Amanda is my daughter. She is part of this family now, whether you like it or not. Robert, be reasonable, said Richard. You barely know this woman. How can you be sure she's not trying to take advantage? Because I know her character, because she refused to accept any financial help from me, because she works honestly to support herself. Robert paused. Characteristics that you two could learn to have. The offense was clear. Ralph turned red with anger. We don't need to hear this from you. You'll hear this, and much more, continued Robert. You two have always lived at my expense. You've always expected to inherit my company without ever having worked a single day to deserve it. We're your family, protested Richard. Real family doesn't threaten, doesn't intimidate, doesn't disrespect, replied Robert. Amanda has shown more respect and affection for me in 2 weeks than you have in years. Amanda felt the situation was getting out of control. Robert, maybe it's better if we leave. No, he said firmly. They need to hear this. Robert turned back to the half-brothers. From today on, any disrespect toward Amanda will be considered disrespect toward me, and I will act accordingly. What does that mean? Asked Ralph. It means I've already spoken with my lawyers. If you continue bothering my daughter, I will remove you from any participation in the company or the inheritance. The silence that followed was tense. Amanda could see that the half-brothers hadn't expected this reaction. You can't do that, said Richard, but his voice had lost its aggressiveness. I can and I will if necessary. Robert took Amanda's hand. Amanda is my only true daughter. If you can't accept that with dignity, perhaps you don't deserve to be called family. Ralph and Richard exchanged nervous glances. It was clear they hadn't considered the possibility of Robert defending her so emphatically. "Robert, we don't want to fight with you," said Ralph, changing his tone. "We're just worried about the money." Robert cut him off. "Not about my well-being or happiness." Amanda decided to speak. "Look, I understand your concern. If I were you, I'd be suspicious too." She looked directly at the two of them. "But I want to make it clear that I have no interest in Robert's inheritance. I just want to have a father." "Anyone can say that," murmured Richard. "Then let's make a deal," proposed Amanda, surprising everyone. "I'll sign a document giving up any rights to the inheritance. That way you can be at ease and I can have a normal relationship with my father." Robert looked at her, shocked. "Amanda, you don't need to do this." "I want to do it. This way it's clear to everyone that my feelings are genuine." The half-siblings seemed suspicious but interested in the proposal. "Would you really do that?" asked Ralph. "I would. I can sign it tomorrow." Robert shook his head. "I won't allow this. You're my daughter and you have rights." "Robert, it's my choice," insisted Amanda. "I'd rather give up the rights and have a family at peace." Amanda's generosity seemed to completely disarm the half-siblings. They clearly didn't expect such an attitude. "Well," Ralph hesitated, "if she really does this, then we could give her a chance to prove herself," completed Richard. Robert still seemed reluctant, but Amanda touched his arm. "It's decided. We'll go to the lawyers tomorrow." On the way back, Robert drove in silence for several minutes before speaking. "Why did you do that?" "Because I found out that having a father is worth more than any money in the world." Amanda looked at him. "And because I saw that this inheritance was causing more problems than solutions." "But it's your right. My right is to be your daughter and have your love. The rest is secondary." Robert stopped the car in a mall parking lot and turned to her. "Amanda, you're braver and wiser than I was at your age. I learned from my mother. She always said that money can't buy the truly important things in life. Your mother was right." Robert smiled for the first time since the episode with the half-siblings. "I'm proud of you." The next day they went to Robert's lawyer's offices. Amanda signed a document formally renouncing any inheritance rights. The lawyers tried to dissuade her, saying it was an irrevocable decision, but she stood her ground. "I'm sure of what I'm doing," she said. When they left the office, Robert invited her to lunch. "Now that this whole inheritance matter is settled, we can focus on what really matters," he said. "Which is?" "Getting to know my daughter for real, learning what your dreams are, your plans, your passions." During lunch, Amanda talked about her desire to one day have her own business, perhaps a small cafe. "I've always loved the idea of having a cozy place where people can meet, talk, feel welcome." "Why don't you do it?" "I lack money for the initial investment." Amanda laughed. "And now that I've given up the inheritance, it'll take even longer to save up what's needed." Robert became thoughtful. "What if I helped you as an investor? Not as a father, but as a partner." Amanda looked at him curiously. "How so?" "You prepare a business plan, and I evaluate it as any investor would. If it's viable, we go in as partners." The idea excited Amanda. Would it be a real partnership? With a contract, profit-sharing, defined responsibilities, everything professional? Robert smiled. "This way you build your dream through your own merit, and I have the satisfaction of helping my daughter grow professionally." Amanda agreed enthusiastically. For the first time in weeks, she felt she was in control of her own life, building something based on her choices and not on discoveries from the past. During the following days, Amanda worked on a detailed business plan for her cafe. She researched locations, suppliers, equipment. Robert accompanied her on some of these research trips, offering advice based on his business experience. "You have an excellent eye for business," he commented after visiting a commercial spot in Williamsburg. "This location would be perfect." "I learned by watching you at the restaurant," said Amanda. "The way you assess the flow, the competition, the profile of the customers." "Seems you inherited more than just my looks," joked Robert. 2 weeks later, Amanda formally presented her business plan. Robert evaluated it with the same seriousness he would use for any other investment. "It's approved," he said at the end of the presentation. "You've just got your first partner." Amanda's joy was evident. She would finally have the chance to realize her dream, and in an honest and meritocratic way. They began searching for the ideal location for the cafe. After visiting several options, they found a small space on a charming street in Greenwich Village, near the house where Amanda had met Lucy. "It's perfect," Amanda said, as soon as she entered the space. "I can picture everything here." The space needed a complete renovation, but it had incredible potential. Large windows that would let in plenty of natural light, a small garden in the back that could be turned into an outdoor area. "What would the cafe be called?" asked Robert as they envisioned the decor. Amanda thought for a moment. "Rose of the Winds," she finally said. "In honor of your mother?" "In honor of our story. Rose for her, and winds because our family was scattered by the winds of fate, but in the end we found each other again." Robert smiled, moved by the choice. "Rose of the Winds it will be." The renovation took 3 months. During this period, Amanda worked part-time at the Bella Vista restaurant and dedicated the rest of her time to the cafe project. Robert accompanied her whenever possible, and she realized she was getting to know a side of him that few had the privilege to see. The man behind the successful businessman. "You seem happier working on this than managing your company," Amanda observed one day as they painted the walls together. "Because here, I'm building something with my daughter," replied Robert. "At the company, I'm just maintaining something that already exists." "And that doesn't fulfill you?" "It did before I met you. Now I know I was just filling a void." Robert stopped painting and looked at her. "You've given meaning to my life, Amanda." Conversations like these brought father and daughter closer in a way neither of them had expected. Amanda discovered that Robert was a sensitive man who had become hardened over the years out of necessity, but beneath the business facade was someone who valued genuine relationships. 2 weeks before the opening, they had a surprise. Ralph and Richard showed up at the cafe during the renovation. "We came to see how it's coming along," said Ralph, visibly embarrassed. Amanda and Robert exchanged glances. Since the episode of renouncing the inheritance, the half-brothers had kept their distance. "Feel free to look around," Amanda said kindly. The two walked through the space in silence, observing the changes. The cafe was becoming cozy, with warm colors and comfortable furniture. "It's turning out very nice," Richard commented finally. "Thank you," replied Amanda. Ralph approached her. "Amanda, we want to apologize for what happened. We acted inappropriately." "We were protecting our interests, but without considering your feelings," Richard added. Amanda looked at them in surprise. She hadn't expected an apology. "I understand your concern. Do you accept my apology?" "Actually," said Ralph, "we wanted to know if we can help with anything here." "Help how?" "Richard is an accountant," explained Ralph. "He could handle the financial side of the cafe. And I work in graphic design. I can help with the visual identity, marketing." Robert looked as surprised as Amanda. "You'd really do that?" "It's the least we can do," said Richard. "Amanda gave up everything to preserve the family's harmony. It's only fair that we do our part too." Amanda was moved by the gesture. For the first time, she saw a real possibility of having a united family. "I would gladly accept the help," she said. "Great," smiled Ralph. "I'll start by creating the logo for Rose of the Winds." In the following weeks, the family dynamic changed completely. Ralph created a beautiful visual identity for the cafe, with elements that evoked both the rose and the winds. Richard organized the entire financial system and helped Amanda better understand the accounting aspects of the business. "You are so talented," commented Amanda during a meeting about the launch. "Why have you never used these skills to work for real?" "Honestly," said Ralph, "because it was easier to live off Robert's generosity." "But working on your own merit is much more rewarding," added Richard. "You taught us that." Robert watched the interactions between his children with satisfaction. For the first time in years, he felt he had a real family. On the eve of the opening, everyone worked late to make everything perfect. Amanda had invited Constance, Lucy, her colleagues from the restaurant, and some neighbors who had followed the renovation. "Tomorrow is the big day," said Robert when they finally stopped to rest. "I'm nervous," confessed Amanda. "It's normal. I get nervous before important events too." What if it doesn't work out? Robert placed his hands on her shoulders. It will work out because you prepared, worked hard, and have your family's support. But even if something doesn't go as planned, we'll be together to face it. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for giving me the chance to be your father. On opening day, the Rose of the Winds Cafe was beautiful. The walls in shades of pink and beige created a cozy atmosphere. The plants in the inner garden brought life to the space. The aroma of fresh coffee and sweet breads filled the air. Amanda had chosen a simple but elegant dress for the occasion. On her wrist, she wore the ring that Robert had given her, the ring that originally belonged to her mother. Constance was one of the first to arrive. "Your mother would be so proud," she said, hugging Amanda. Lucy arrived next, bringing a bouquet of roses. "For the star of the party," she said, handing the flowers to Amanda. The colleagues from the Bella Vista restaurant came in full force, including Mr. Mark. "You did it, Amanda," said Carla. "Your own business, your family reunited. It's like a fairy tale." "Only better," replied Amanda, "because it's real." Robert gave a short speech during the opening. "This cafe represents much more than a business for my family," he told the guests. "It represents proof that it's never too late to start over, to build bridges, to find those we love. Rose of the Winds is a place where we hope you feel at home," continued Amanda, "because it was here that I finally found mine." The afternoon passed quickly, with customers coming and going, trying the products, praising the decor and the service. Ralph and Richard worked as volunteer waiters, helping Amanda serve everyone. At the end of the day, when the last customers had left, the family gathered at a table to take stock. "We sold everything we prepared," said Richard proudly. "And we already have bookings for private events," added Ralph. "More importantly than that," said Robert, "you three worked in perfect harmony, like a true team." Amanda looked around the table, seeing the tired but happy faces of her new family. A few months ago, she was alone in the world. Now she had a father, 2 half-brothers, and a thriving business. "You know," she said, "I think my mother planned all this." "How so?" asked Robert. "She always said that things happen at the right time. Perhaps all these years of separation were necessary for us to meet at the moment we were ready to be a real family." Robert took her hand. If it was planned by her, then she managed to perform her last miracle. Constance, who had stayed to help with the cleaning, approached the table. "Can I share something Rose asked me to say only when Amanda was truly happy?" Everyone looked at her curiously. "In her final days, Rose told me she had a feeling that you and Robert would meet one day. She didn't know how or when, but she was certain that true love always finds a way to reunite." "She really said that?" asked Robert, moved. "She did. And she asked me to make sure you didn't waste time arguing or holding grudges from the past." Amanda felt tears in her eyes. "So she knew we would meet." "Mothers know many things we can't explain," said Constance wisely. That night, Amanda stayed alone at the cafe for a few minutes after everyone had left. She looked at the photos on the wall, one of her mother, one of her with Robert on the day of the DNA test, one of the whole family at the opening. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered to Rose's picture, "for giving me the courage to seek the truth, for choosing forgiveness over resentment, for teaching me that love is worth more than any pride." When she closed the cafe and went outside, Robert was waiting on the sidewalk. "I couldn't go home without saying goodbye," he said. "You didn't have to wait." "Yes, I did. I wanted to say that this was the happiest day of my life since your mother first entered it." They walked together to Amanda's bus stop. "Robert," she said before boarding, "thank you for searching for my mother all these years. Even without knowing if you would find me, you never gave up. That tells me a lot about the man you are. And thank you for giving me a second chance to be a father. For teaching me that family isn't built just with DNA, but with love, patience, and forgiveness." When the bus arrived, Amanda got on and waved through the window. She saw Robert standing on the sidewalk until the bus disappeared from view. During the ride home, Amanda thought about how her life had completely changed in just a few months, from a lonely waitress to a business owner, from an orphaned daughter to a member of a united family. All these transformations began with a simple observation about a tattoo. When she got home, she found Constance waiting for her in the living room. "How was the first day?" "Perfect, Aunt. Better than I dreamed." "And Robert, how is he handling all this?" "I think he's happy for the first time in decades." Amanda sat next to her aunt. "And the half-siblings are changing too. They worked all day without complaining. Sometimes people just need an opportunity to show their best side. That's true." Amanda sighed, satisfied. "You know what's funniest? I spent 30 years wondering who my father was, and now that I know, I realize that was just the beginning." "How so?" "Finding out who he was easy compared to learning how to be his daughter, how to build a real relationship, how to make a family work." Constance smiled. "Your mother would be proud to hear that. She always said the best things in life require constant work." And she was right. The cafe will require a lot of work to be successful. The relationship with Robert will need patience and understanding. Even with the half-siblings, we'll have to learn to live together. "But are you willing to do that work?" "Completely." Amanda looked at Rosie's photo on the shelf. "Because I finally understood what my mother always wanted me to learn, that love isn't something that happens to us. It's something we build every day." In the months that followed, the Rose of the Winds Cafe became a success. Amanda hired 2 employees and expanded the menu. Robert continued as an active partner, but completely respected Amanda's leadership in the business. Ralph and Richard became permanent collaborators, with Ralph handling marketing and Richard managing accounting. The 3 half-siblings developed a relationship of mutual respect and genuine affection. 1 year after the opening, Amanda decided to throw a birthday party for the cafe. During the party, Robert made a surprise announcement. "I want to inform you all that I am retiring from my import company," he told the guests. "Ralph and Richard will take over management, while I dedicate myself fully to what truly makes me happy, helping my daughter make Rose of the Winds grow." The news took everyone by surprise, especially the half-siblings. "Are you sure you can take on this responsibility?" asked Amanda. "We are," replied Ralph. "Amanda, you taught us that working on our own merit is far more satisfying than living off favors. We want to prove we're worthy of Robert's trust. And we want you to know that we greatly admire what you've built here," added Richard. Robert approached Amanda. "And I want you to know you're the best business partner I've ever had. I learn something new from you every day." During the party, an elderly customer approached Amanda. "Sorry to bother you, but I couldn't help but notice the gentleman's tattoo," she said, pointing to Robert. "My late husband had one just like it." Amanda and Robert exchanged curious glances. "Where did your husband get the tattoo?" asked Amanda. "At a small shop downtown, over 40 years ago. The tattoo artist said that specific design represented a love that transcends time." The woman smiled. "He only did that tattoo for couples who could prove their love was true." "How did they prove it?" asked Robert. "They had to come back together after a year. If they were still together and happy, he'd do the tattoos. If not, he'd refuse the service." Amanda felt a shiver. This information changed everything she thought about her parents' tattoo. "You mean my mother and Robert came back together after a year?" "If they have those tattoos, yes," confirmed the woman. "My husband told me only 3 couples got that tattoo in the artist's 40 years of work." After the party, Amanda and Robert were alone in the cafe, trying to process this new information. "This changes everything," said Amanda. "My mother never mentioned that you came back together." "Because it was probably right after we broke up for good," said Robert, remembering. "We met once, almost a year after the breakup. She had disappeared for months and suddenly showed up saying she wanted to get the tattoos we had planned. And you agreed." "I agreed because I still loved her desperately. I thought it meant she wanted to get back together." Robert sighed. "We got the tattoos on a Saturday. On Sunday, she told me she was pregnant and that we were going to get married." Amanda held her breath. "And what happened?" "On Monday, my parents found out. They made such a scene, threatened so much that I—" Robert paused, visibly emotional. "I asked for some time to think. And her. She said she didn't need to think, that she had offered her heart for the last time, and if I didn't want it right then, she would withdraw the offer forever." Amanda felt tears in her eyes. She finally understood what had happened between her parents. And you asked for time. I did. I thought a few days wouldn't make a difference, that when I came back she'd still be there. Robert wiped his eyes. When I went to look for her 3 days later, she had disappeared. No one knew where she had gone. She went to Boulder, away from you. And I kept looking for her in all the wrong places. Robert looked at the tattoo on his own hand. This mark became a daily reminder of my cowardice. Amanda approached him and held his hand. But it also became what brought us together. If you didn't have this tattoo, I would never have noticed you at the restaurant. That's true. Robert smiled sadly. Your mother always said things happen for a reason. Maybe she was right. I'm sure she was. Amanda looked around the cafe, thinking about everything that had happened. Robert, can I tell you a secret? Of course. Sometimes I feel like my mother is here, as if she's watching everything we've built and is proud. Amanda smiled. I think she finally has the family she always wanted. The three of us together at peace, truly loving each other. Robert hugged her tightly. I feel that too. And you know what else I feel? What? I feel like I've finally managed to honor the love I felt for her. Through you. Through this family we've built. Robert pulled back to look into Amanda's eyes. Your mother forgave me through you. And have you forgiven yourself? Robert was thoughtful for a moment. I think so. For the first time in 30 years, I can look at this tattoo and feel love instead of guilt. That night, when they closed the cafe, father and daughter walked together along the quiet street of Greenwich Village. The air was fresh, and the city lights created a cozy atmosphere. Amanda, said Robert, can I tell you something I've never told anyone? Of course. All those years searching for your mother, I used to dream about a daughter. Robert smiled. I dreamed that one day I would find Rose, and she would introduce me to a girl who would be ours. A smart, brave, and kind girl. And what was this girl like in your dreams? Exactly like you are. Robert stopped walking and looked at Amanda. It's as if you stepped right out of my dreams into reality. Amanda felt her heart warm. You know what's funny? I also dreamed about a father. I dreamed that he would appear suddenly and be everything I ever wanted, kind, smart, and would love me unconditionally. And what was this father like in your dreams? Exactly like you are. They laughed together, recognizing the magic of the moment. I think our dreams met before we did, said Robert, through the love my mother felt for you. She connected our dreams before she even connected our lives. When they reached Amanda's bus stop, Robert hesitated. Amanda, can I ask you something? Anything. Next Sunday, it's exactly 1 year since we met. I'd like us to visit your mother's grave together. Amanda smiled, moved. I'd love that. In fact, I was already thinking about it. Great. And afterward, we can stop by Central Park where I used to meet with her. That would be perfect. The following Sunday, Amanda and Robert went together to the cemetery where Rose was buried. They brought a bouquet of white roses and a photo of the Rose of the Winds cafe. Hi, Mum, said Amanda, kneeling beside the headstone. I brought someone you know. Robert knelt beside her. Rose, he said, his voice choked. I found our daughter, and she's everything you said she would be, and more. Amanda placed the photo of the cafe on the headstone. Look what we built, Mom. A place where people gather, talk, feel at home, just like you always dreamed. She would be so proud of you both, said a voice behind them. They turned and saw Constance approaching, also carrying flowers. Aunt, I didn't know you were coming today. I come every Sunday, said Constance, but today is special, 1 year since you found each other. The three stood in silence for a few minutes, each in their own thoughts. Amanda thought about all the changes in her life. Robert thought of the forgiveness he had finally found. Constance thought of the sister who had passed away, but left behind the greatest gift possible, the unity of a family. Constance, said Robert, I want to thank you for taking care of Amanda all these years, for being the mother she needed when Rose couldn't be here. It was a privilege, replied Constance. Amanda was always a special girl. Rose knew that. And now she's a special woman, added Robert. A successful businesswoman, a loving daughter, a person of integrity. A bridge between the past and the future, said Constance. Rose always said Amanda would be responsible for healing our family's wounds. And that's exactly what happened, agreed Amanda. After the cemetery, the three went to Central Park. Robert showed Amanda the bench where he and Rose used to meet. We sat here every Sunday for almost a year, he told her. We made plans for the future, dreamed of a life together, imagined what our children would be like. Amanda sat on the bench, trying to picture her parents young in that same spot. What kind of plans did you make? We wanted a simple house in a small town where we could have a small business. Robert sat beside her. Rose dreamed of a craft shop where she would sell the pieces she made herself. My mother did crafts. She made beautiful things. She had a magical touch for creating beauty. Robert smiled at the memory. I kept some pieces she gave me. They're at home. I'd love to see them. Then they'll be your next birthday present. Constance sat on the other side of Amanda. Rose never stopped doing crafts. She made beautiful pieces that she sold at weekend fairs. She looked at Amanda. In fact, that's how she managed to save money to buy your first school uniforms and books. Amanda felt a pang of emotion. Her mother had worked with her hands to give her an education. She never told me she did crafts to support me. Rose never wanted you to feel like a burden. For her, working for your well-being was a pleasure, not a sacrifice. Robert fell silent, absorbing this information, more proof of the exceptional character of the woman he had loved. Amanda, he said finally, how about we turn part of the cafe into a space for crafts? We can sell pieces by local artists in honor of your mother. Amanda's eyes lit up. That would be perfect. We can call it Rose's Corner. And I can help find talented artists to participate, offered Constance. Then it's decided, said Robert. We'll expand the Rose of the Winds. As they walked back to the car, Amanda reflected on how her life had become rich in connections and purpose. A year ago, she was just a waitress dreaming of a better future. Now she was a fulfilled businesswoman, part of a loving family, and about to honor her mother's memory in a way she never thought possible. You know, she said, I think I finally understand the message my mother wanted to leave me. What? Asked Robert. That true love doesn't die. It just transforms. The love between you two transformed into me. Her love for me transformed into the family I found. And now our love for her is transforming into something that will help other people. Robert stopped walking and hugged her. Your mother would be proud to see how you've honored the love she felt. And she'd be happy to see that you've finally found peace, added Constance. In the following months, Rose's Corner became a beloved part of the cafe. Local artists displayed their pieces, and a portion of the sales was donated to social projects aimed at single mothers. Ralph created a website for the cafe that told the story of Rose and Robert, turning it into inspiration for other couples who had faced painful separations. The cafe began receiving visits from people who identified with the story. One afternoon, a lady about 70 years old entered the cafe looking for Amanda. Are you Rose Helen's daughter? She asked. Yes, I am. How can I help you? My name is Dawn. I read your story on the website and had to come here. The lady sat down, visibly emotional. Rose Helen was my best friend in our youth. Amanda called Robert and Constance, who were at the cafe that day. Dawn was telling me she knew my mother. I did. We worked together at a clothing factory long before she met Robert. Dawn looked at Robert. Actually, it was through me that they met. Everyone looked at her in surprise. How so? Rose always passed by the office of Robert's family on her way to work. One day she told me she had noticed a very handsome young man working there. Dawn smiled. I knew the Anderson family because of my brother, who did delivery services for them. I arranged a way to introduce them. Robert was stunned. You're the Dawn who introduced Rose to me. That's me. Dawn laughed. Rose talked about you all the time after you met. She was completely in love. And why did we never hear from you again? Asked Amanda. Because when you separated, Rose asked me not to talk about Robert anymore. She said it was too painful for her. Dawn sighed. I respected that, but I always regretted it. Maybe if I had insisted, things would have been different. Don't blame yourself, said Robert. The choices were ours. Actually, said Dawn, I came here to tell you something that Rose made me promise to only share if you ever reunited. Amanda felt her heart race. More secrets about her mother were about to be revealed. When Rose found out she was pregnant, she came to me. Dawn looked at Amanda. She was desperate to tell Robert, but she was afraid of his family's reaction. And what did you advise? I told her to tell the truth and fight for your love. Dawn paused. She followed my advice. She went after Robert, determined to face any obstacle. But I ruined everything by asking for time to think, said Robert, guilt evident in his voice. Actually, that's not exactly what happened. Dawn looked directly at Robert. Rose called me the day after your meeting. She was radiant. She said you had agreed to marry her, that you had even set a date. Robert was confused. But she disappeared before I could give a definitive answer. Because his family showed up at her house the next day, explained Dawn. Robert's mother and father went there and offered her money to disappear. The silence that followed was shocking. Amanda saw Robert turn completely pale. My parents did what? They offered a considerable sum for Rose to disappear from his life. They said if she really loved him, she wouldn't ruin his future by marrying someone from a lower class. Amanda felt anger growing in her chest. And did she accept the money? No, Rose threw them out of her house, but she was psychologically devastated. Dawn wiped away a tear. She told me that if Robert's family was capable of going so far to separate them, maybe they didn't have a future after all. Robert was visibly shaken. I didn't know. My parents never told me. They forbade Rose from contacting you. They said if she tried any contact, they would make sure to ruin her life and that of any child she had. That's why she fled to Boulder, understood Amanda. Exactly. Rose was protecting you even before you were born. Dawn looked at Robert with compassion. She never blamed you, Robert. She knew you were being manipulated by the family. Robert stood up abruptly and began pacing around the cafe. All these years I thought I had been a coward, that I had chosen family over love. You were as much a victim as Rose, said Dawn. The difference is that she knew about the manipulation and you didn't. Amanda approached her father. Robert, this changes nothing about who you are today. You were young and trusted your parents, but it changes everything about what happened. Robert turned to Dawn. My parents died 10 years ago. I can never confront them about this. Maybe it's better that way, said Constance, who'd remained silent until then. What matters is that now you know the truth. And you know that my mother never held a grudge against you, added Amanda. Dawn stood up to leave. I just wanted you all to know the truth. Rose deserved for the real story to be told. Dawn, called Robert. Thank you for being Rose's friend, and for having the courage to tell us this today. Rose was the best person I ever knew in my life. You two are the living proof of the love she carried in her heart. After Dawn left, the three of them sat in silence, processing the revelations. How do you feel? Amanda asked Robert. Relieved, he said after a moment. For decades I thought I had been weak. Now I know I was deceived. And does that change anything? It changes everything. It means that the love between Rose and me was stronger than I imagined, that it withstood even family manipulations. Robert looked at Amanda. It means you were conceived in true love, not in abandonment. I always knew that, said Amanda, smiling. My mother loved me from the first moment, and from what I see now, you loved her until the last. And I still do, confessed Robert. Through you, through this family, through everything we built together. That night, Amanda dreamed of her mother for the first time in years. Rose appeared young, wearing a white dress, smiling radiantly. Hi, my daughter, said Rose in the dream. Mom! Amanda ran to hug her. I came to tell you that I'm proud of everything you've done. You found your father, built a family, created something beautiful in my memory. I miss you every day. I know, but you don't have to miss me anymore. I'm here, Rose touched Amanda's heart. In every act of love you give, in every moment of forgiveness, in every time you choose happiness over pain, Robert misses you too. And I miss him. But now that you've found each other, our love can finally rest in peace. Rose smiled. Take care of him for me, Amanda, and let him take care of you. You both deserve all the love in the world. Amanda woke up with tears in her eyes, but with a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. For the first time, she didn't feel her mother's absence as a pain, but as a loving presence that accompanied her. The next day, she told Robert about the dream. I think she came to say goodbye, said Amanda. To tell us that she's at peace with everything that happened. I feel that too, agreed Robert. For the first time in decades, I no longer feel guilty when I think of her. Do you know what else I feel? What? Gratitude. Gratitude for having a mother who loved me unconditionally. Gratitude for finding a father who accepts me as I am. Gratitude for having a family that chose each other, not just by blood but by love. Robert hugged her. I'm grateful too. Grateful that Rose raised you to be the incredible woman you are. Grateful that you gave me a second chance. Grateful for learning that it's never too late to have a family. 2 years later, the Rose of the Winds Cafe had become a neighborhood landmark. The Rose's Corner hosted monthly exhibitions, and the sales helped many local artist families. Amanda had become a respected small business owner in the area, known not only for the cafe's success, but for her generosity and character. Robert remained an active partner, but completely respected her leadership. Ralph and Richard had turned the import company into an even more prosperous business, proving themselves worthy of the trust placed in them. The three half-siblings had become an inseparable team. On a Thursday afternoon during the cafe's normal bustle, Amanda served a customer who would once again change her perspective on life. She was a young woman, appearing to be 25, who entered visibly nervous and asked to speak with the owner. That would be me, said Amanda. How can I help you? My name is Julie, said the young woman. I read about your story online, and I need to tell you something. Amanda invited her to sit at a secluded table. Feel free to speak. My grandfather was a tattoo artist. Julie took a deep breath. He did your parents' tattoos. Amanda felt her heart race. Your grandfather? Yes. He died 2 years ago, but before he passed, he told me about some special couples he tattooed. Your parents were one of them. What did he say about them? That they were the most passionate couple he had ever seen. Julie smiled. He said when they came back after a year, they were radiating love. That it was easy to see they would spend their whole lives together. Amanda felt tears in her eyes, but they separated soon after. My grandfather knew that. Julie hesitated. Actually, your mother came back to the studio a few months later, pregnant and alone. She came back? She did. She wanted to get another tattoo to cover up the one she had gotten with your father. Julie paused. My grandfather refused. Why? Because he said that tattoo represented true love, and he couldn't destroy something so pure just because the lovers were going through a hard time. Amanda fell silent, absorbing the information. Was your mother angry? No. She started to cry. She said maybe he was right, that maybe she should keep the tattoo as a reminder of the only true love she had ever known. And then? My grandfather talked with her for hours. He said true love always finds a way back, even if it takes decades. Julie smiled. He used to say that specific tattoo had special powers. What kind of powers? The power to reunite hearts that truly belong together. Julie took something out of her bag. He left this for me to give you if I ever found you. It was a small box with 2 simple silver rings. What is this? Your mother's ordered them along with the tattoos. They were meant to be your wedding bands. Julie handed the box to Amanda. She paid for them, but never came back to pick them up. Amanda opened the box with trembling hands. Inside were 2 rings engraved with the same design as the tattoos, a dragon intertwined with a rose. She ordered them? Yes, as a surprise for Robert. Julie stood up. My grandfather always said he wished they would reach the right owners. That afternoon, when Robert arrived at the cafe, Amanda showed him the rings. "She planned everything," said Robert, visibly moved. "Even the rings." "What should we do with them?" Robert thought for a moment, then smiled. "I think we should wear them." "What do you mean?" "Not as wedding rings, but as family symbols." Robert took one of the rings. "I'll wear one, you wear the other, as a symbol that we are family forever." Amanda thought the idea was perfect. "My mother would be happy to know they finally fulfilled the purpose they were made for." They put the rings on at the same moment, smiling through tears. "Now we're officially connected not just by DNA, but by the same symbol of eternal love that united your parents," said Robert. That evening, Amanda closed the cafe with a feeling of total completeness. She looked around the space she had created, saw the photos on the wall, the plants in the garden, the artwork displayed. All of that had started with a simple observation about a tattoo that revealed not only her father's identity, but a whole story of love, separation, forgiveness, and reunion. Amanda touched the ring on her finger and smiled. Her mother had left much more than memories. She had left a path to happiness, bridges to connect hearts, and proof that true love never really dies. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered to the sky, "for teaching me that family isn't just where we are born, but where we choose to belong. For showing me that love is the only inheritance that truly matters, and for giving me the courage to seek the truth, even when it hurt." When she left the cafe that night, Robert was waiting for her on the sidewalk, as had become their custom. "Ready to go home?" he asked. "Ready," answered Amanda, taking his arm. As they walked down the illuminated street, father and daughter talked about plans for the next day, about new ideas for the cafe, about the family they had built together. It was a simple, everyday, normal conversation, exactly the kind of conversation Amanda had dreamed of having with a father all her life. And as they walked, the two rings on their fingers shone softly under the streetlights, carrying with them the promise of a love that had transcended time, separation, and even death. Rose Helen Collins had passed away years ago, but her greatest dream had come true. Her daughter had a family that loved her, and the man she had loved had finally found the peace and happiness he deserved. End of story. And now tell us what you thought of this moving story. Do you think Robert and Amanda managed to honor Rose's memory in the best way? Do you believe that true love always finds a way to reunite? Share your opinion in the comments, leave your like if the story touched your heart, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other stories that will move you. Thank you so much for your company.